In the not-too-distant future, the world awoke to a startling realization. Common sense was on the brink of extinction. This wasn't an overnight phenomenon, nor was it a sudden cataclysmic event. Rather, it had been a gradual decline, noticeable only to those who remembered the days when common sense was not so rare. The people of Earth lived in a society driven by technological advancements and immediate gratification, where the devices and apps designed to simplify life had inadvertently complicated it further. Information overflowed, yet wisdom dwindled. Opinions were amplified through the megaphones of social media, drowning out the soft, steady voice of common sense. As common sense became scarcer, the world became a stranger place. Laws were written not to be understood, but to be loopholed. Education prioritized rote over thought, and news was more about spectacle than substance. People were quick to speak and slow to listen, leading to a society where misunderstandings were the norm, not the exception. It was during this time that an unlikely group of heroes emerged, the common sense revivalists. They were a diverse band composed of a teacher, a retired judge, a street-smart grandmother, and a young poet. Together, they embarked on a mission to save common sense by reintroducing it into daily life, one interaction at a time. Their journey began in the schools. The teacher, Mr. Thompson, used stories instead of slides, teaching students to question, to ponder, and to solve problems without checking their phones. He encouraged debates in his classroom, urging his pupils to think critically and to respect differing viewpoints. Next, they visited courts and council chambers where the retired judge, Judge Watkins, spoke passionately about the importance of fairness and reason in law. She advocated for simpler, clearer legislation that could be understood by all, not just by those with law degrees. The street-smart grandmother, Mrs. Ada, took to the streets, sharing wisdom in everyday conversations. She had a knack for diffusing conflicts with her down-to-earth advice, often delivered with a pinch of humor and a pound of love. Her tales of simpler times, when people relied more on common sense and less on gadgets, resonated deeply. Lastly, the young poet named Luna composed and recited verses about the beauty of simple wisdom. Her poetry readings, shared online and in cafes, inspired a new appreciation for mindful living and the art of thinking before acting. As their message spread, people began to listen. Slowly, common sense started making a comeback. Legislation was simplified, educational curriculums were revamped to include critical thinking skills, and individuals started valuing personal interactions over virtual ones. But the revivalists knew their work was far from over. They established the Common Sense Corps, a global initiative encouraging people from all walks of life to foster dialogue, practice patience, and engage in community service. They emphasized that common sense was more than just practical intelligence. It was the glue that held society together, ensuring freedom and fairness. The moral of their story was clear. Common sense is the guardian of our freedoms. Protect it, nurture it, and pass it on. We must all take action, for a society devoid of common sense is a society at risk. Years later, common sense is no longer endangered, but thriving. As people across the world continue to cultivate it, they remember the lesson of the common sense revivalists, that every individual's effort counts, and together they can keep the essence of humanity alive in an ever-changing world.